The night before my surgery, I couldn't sleep. I kept looking at my phone, hoping to see her name pop up, hoping maybe she'd change her mind. Maybe she'd say she was coming. Instead, I got a text that just said, "LOL, you actually thought I might cancel my New York trip for your surgery?" I read it 3 times, just to be sure I wasn't missing some kind of joke. But there it was, plain and simple. No emoji, no sorry, nothing. Just that. For a second, I just sat there staring at the blue light on my screen. I'd sent her a message earlier, something quiet and honest. "Wish you could be here tomorrow. It'd mean a lot to have you with me." I didn't ask for much. Not the world, not some crazy promise, just a little support. But I guess that was already too much. I heard her voice in my head talking about New York, about how she had tickets to some rooftop party, how she was dying to try real pizza and see the city from the Empire State. She'd been planning this trip for weeks, telling anyone who'd listen. I always thought I'd be part of her big moments. Turns out I wasn't even part of the small ones. My room felt too quiet. I stared at the hospital paperwork on my desk, the yellow folder with my name on it. I could see the corners of the bills peeking out, each one a reminder of how real this all was. I thought about all the times I dropped everything for her. Late-night pickups in the rain. Missing work because she needed a ride. Buying takeout when she was too tired to cook. Every little thing that said, "I'm here." I took a breath and wrote back, "That was my mistake. I won't bother you again." She didn't reply. No call. No good luck. Not even a thumbs up. I lay back, listening to the tick of the old clock on my wall, feeling the weight of every second. And for the first time, I wondered, have you ever needed someone and watched them pick something else instead? The morning of my surgery, the hospital was already buzzing before sunrise. Nurses moved through the halls, checking clipboards and 4 bags. I tried to sit up straighter in bed, pretending I wasn't scared, but every beep and whisper felt too loud. My phone was face down on the table, but every few minutes I'd flip it over, just in case. No new messages. No good luck. Nothing from her. A nurse with red hair came in and smiled gently. "Ready for the big day?" she asked, like I was about to run a marathon, not get put under anesthesia. I tried to smile back, but my lips barely moved. She helped me get changed into the hospital gown, tying the strings behind my back. "Anyone coming to sit with you?" she asked quietly. I shook my head. "Not today." She looked at me for a second, and I could tell she wanted to say something kind, but she just squeezed my shoulder and left. I was alone. Completely. Doctors came and went, marking my chart, double-checking the wristband, asking the same questions over and over. I kept glancing at the clock, wishing the minutes would slow down, wishing maybe I'd hear her voice, just once, before they rolled me away. I replayed old memories in my head. Her laughing on the beach. Road trips with the windows down, singing off-key. The way she used to lean into me in every photo, like she wanted the world to know we were together. I wondered when it changed. When I became the backup plan, the second choice, the easy thing to leave behind. A doctor finally appeared, cheerful and rushed, and asked, "Are you ready?" I nodded. As they wheeled me down the hallway, I saw families waiting outside rooms. Husbands holding their wives' hands, friends gathered around with flowers and hope. It felt like a movie scene, only I was just a background character in everyone else's story. The doors to the operating room swung open. Cold air hit my skin. Someone put a mask over my face and said, "Take a deep breath, buddy." My last thought before everything went black wasn't fear. It was a single question. Why do the people you love the most leave you when you need them the most? When I woke up, everything was blurry and slow. The ceiling tiles above me looked like a checkerboard, and my mouth was dry, like I'd swallowed sand. It took me a minute to remember where I was, or why. A nurse checked my 4 and asked, "How are you feeling?" I nodded, trying to look tougher than I felt. "All right," I mumbled, but my voice came out weak. The room was quiet, except for the steady hum of machines and the occasional footsteps outside. I glanced at the chair in the corner, hoping for a second that she'd be there, maybe scrolling through her phone, pretending to be annoyed by hospital coffee. But the chair was empty. I looked at my phone again. Nothing. Not a single message. Just a flood of notifications from apps I barely used. Nothing from the only person I wanted. I scrolled through our old texts. Weeks ago, we sent each other voice notes about what to eat for dinner, what movies to watch. Her voice was always bright, even when she was tired. Now, there was just silence. The doctor came in, asked how I was feeling, and went over the surgery. It went well, he said. No complications. I nodded, not really listening. He told me I'd be moved to a recovery room soon, that someone would check on me every hour. I wanted to tell him, there's nobody coming. But I just nodded again. I closed my eyes and tried to rest, but every time I drifted off, my mind snapped back to her. Where was she? Did she even care? A little later, my phone buzzed. My heart jumped. But it wasn't her. It was just the pharmacy, reminding me to pick up a prescription. I almost laughed at how pathetic it all was. Another nurse stopped in, handed me a cup of water, and asked if I wanted to call anyone. I said no. The day dragged on. I watched sunlight crawl across the wall, watched nurses come and go, watched the clock move slower than ever. I kept thinking, how many times do you have to be ignored before you finally accept that you're alone? Late that afternoon, the hospital halls echoed with quiet voices and soft footsteps. I sat in my recovery bed, staring at the gray ceiling, trying to feel something other than empty. A nurse popped in to check my chart. Any visitors yet? She asked, hopeful. I shook my head, pretending I didn't care. Maybe later, I said, lying to both of us. I watched the door for hours. Every time someone walked by, my heart jumped, hoping maybe she'd change her mind. Maybe she'd show up with some excuse and a tired smile. But the door just stayed closed. I texted her once more, almost on instinct. Just a simple. Out of surgery. Doing okay. I waited. Minutes stretched into an hour. Then 2. She'd seen the message. Read receipts never lie. But there was no reply. My phone finally buzzed in the evening. I grabbed it so fast I nearly dropped it. But it was just a friend from work, asking how I was doing. I thanked him, but kept my answers short. It wasn't the message I needed. I closed my eyes and remembered her last birthday. We'd stayed up late, eating cake from the box, laughing at nothing. She made a wish, eyes closed, said she wanted to see the world. I thought I'd be by her side for all of it. Now, she was halfway across the country, living her wish, and I was here, alone, counting ceiling tiles. The nurse came back, asked if I wanted the blinds open. I nodded. Sunlight spilled into the room, bright and warm, but it didn't touch the ache in my chest. I picked up my phone one last time and scrolled through our old photos. Beach days, concerts, messy kitchens. Every smile felt like a memory from a different life. Outside my window, people rushed by with flowers and balloons. I watched a father hug his daughter tight. It was a simple moment, but it hit me hard. The world kept moving. People kept loving. And somehow, I'd been left behind. As night crept in and the room faded to blue, I stared at my silent phone and wondered, how long do you keep waiting for someone to care before you finally let go? I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd wake up thinking I heard her voice, or that the phone might finally light up with her name. But the only sounds were distant footsteps and the low hum of machines. By morning, the nurses had settled into their routines. I moved slower, stiff and sore, trying to hide how much it hurt. A nurse brought me breakfast, but I barely touched it. The eggs were cold and rubbery, the coffee thin as water. I just kept staring at the empty chair in the corner. Mid-morning, my phone finally buzzed. I grabbed it, pulse racing. This time, it was her. Just one line. How did it go? No question mark. No emoji. Nothing that sounded like her. I typed back, fingers shaking a little. It went fine. I'm okay. I waited. I stared at the screen, hoping she might say more, ask how I felt, maybe apologize for not being there. But the 3 little dots blinked and then disappeared. She'd read it, but no reply came. Not for another hour, not for the whole morning. A few nurses joked in the hallway about weekend plans and shopping trips. Someone laughed loud enough that I almost smiled. I thought about calling my mom, but decided against it. I didn't want anyone to hear the disappointment in my voice. Instead, I got out of bed and shuffled slowly to the window. I watched the cars crawl through the hospital lot, people hugging, rushing, living. I'd never felt so separate from the world. I kept thinking about everything I'd done for her. The little things, the way I'd listened to her talk about work, the times I waited in the rain, the nights I stayed up just to make sure she got home safe. I wondered if she even remembered. The doctor stopped in to check my stitches and told me I'd likely be discharged the next day. "You'll heal fast," he said. "Looks like you did everything right." I smiled back, but the words fell hollow. I set my phone face down, took a deep breath, and asked myself, when someone shows you how little they care, why is it so hard to believe them? Discharge day came, gray and rainy. I packed my things in slow motion, folding my clothes, collecting my charger, sliding the hospital forms into my backpack. The nurse handed me a set of papers and smiled. "You've got someone picking you up?" I shook my head. "I'll just get a ride share." She hesitated, like she wanted to offer comfort, but she just squeezed my hand. "Take care of yourself, okay?" I nodded, pretending I was fine. The ride home felt longer than it should have. Raindrops streaked across the car window, blurring the world outside. My phone sat heavy in my pocket. No new messages. I kept replaying the last few days in my head, trying to find a reason, any excuse for her absence. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she thought I'd rather be alone. But deep down I knew. Sometimes people just don't show up, and you have to accept it. Back at my apartment, everything felt the same, but also completely different. The pile of laundry, the half-eaten cereal on the counter, her mug with lipstick still on the rim from last week. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, looking at that mug, remembering how she'd once joked that it was her good luck cup. I picked up my phone and checked her Instagram, hoping to see a story or a post, maybe something that showed she was thinking of me, even from far away. Instead, I saw photos of her at a rooftop party in Manhattan, sparkling lights in the background, her arm around friends I didn't know. She looked happy, more alive than I'd seen in months. A strange calm settled over me. All those little things I'd held onto, the hope, the excuses, the belief she'd come through, faded away with every swipe. I tossed my hospital bracelet on the table, sat on the edge of my bed, and let the silence fill the room. It was the first time I felt truly alone. But it wasn't as scary as I thought. For the first time, I let myself ask, what do you do when you realize you've been holding onto someone who already let go? The days blurred together after that. I moved around my apartment like a stranger, quietly putting things back where they belonged, making coffee, staring at the TV, without really seeing anything. I went back to work sooner than anyone expected. Coworkers asked how I was feeling, but no one pressed for details. I answered with a smile, doing better every day. Nobody knew what I'd been through outside the surgery, the loneliness, the silent disappointment. One afternoon, as I scrolled through my emails at work, her name popped up on the screen. A single message. "Hey, just checking in. Hope you're feeling better. Let me know if you need anything." The words felt light, like she was writing to a neighbor, not the person who'd spent years by her side. I stared at the message, reread it, then set my phone down. For the first time, I felt nothing. Not anger, not hope, just acceptance. That evening, my nurse from the hospital called to check on my recovery. Her voice was gentle, familiar. After a few basic questions about my pain and medicine, she hesitated. "By the way," she said quietly, "someone called here asking about you. She said she was your fiancée, wanted details about your surgery. But, well, you'd already been discharged by then." I paused, a strange feeling creeping in. "Did she seem worried?" I asked. The nurse sighed, honest in a way only strangers can be. She sounded more surprised than anything else. Like she couldn't believe you'd gone through it without her. I thanked her and hung up. The truth hit me then, not in a dramatic way, but as a quiet realization. She hadn't missed me. She'd missed being missed. Her message wasn't about me, it was about herself. That night, I cleared out the last reminders of her, the mug, the spare key, a photo tucked in my drawer. I boxed everything up and set it by the door. For the first time in months, I felt a little lighter. I looked around my empty apartment and asked myself, What happens when you finally choose your own peace over someone else's excuses? A week passed before I heard from her again. Another text, casual as ever. Back from New York. Hope you're good. Want to meet up and catch up? I read it twice, letting the words settle in. She'd spent days living out her dream, parties and bright city lights, while I faced surgery and recovery alone. Now, when her trip was over, when the excitement faded, she wanted to walk right back in, as if nothing had happened. I sat at my small kitchen table, sunlight warming my arms, and thought about everything I'd learned in the space of one lonely week. I thought about all the times I'd bent over backwards to make her happy. How I'd believed love meant never letting go, no matter how many times you got left behind. This time, I decided to do something different. I wrote a reply, calm and simple. Glad you had a great trip. I'm focusing on my health right now. I think it's best if we both move forward. I stared at the message for a moment, then pressed send. No anger. No blame. Just truth. I expected another text, maybe an apology, maybe outrage. Instead, there was just silence. A silence that felt like peace, not loss. I stood up and made coffee, breathing in the quiet. I realized I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of someone being there when I needed them. But wanting love isn't the same as having it returned. A few days later, I got a card in the mail from the hospital, signed by the nurses. Glad you're healing. We're rooting for you. That simple kindness meant more to me than any empty promise or half-hearted text ever could. Sometimes, the best revenge is nothing loud or angry. It's learning to walk away with your dignity, letting people feel the emptiness they left, while you build something better for yourself. I looked out my window at the world moving on, finally part of it again. And in that quiet moment, I knew, letting go isn't losing. Sometimes, it's the first step to finally being free.